Welcome. This evening I'd like to read for you a passage from the Stone edition of the Tanakh that will hopefully clear up a few things. Titled The Essence of Prophecy. Essential to an understanding of Tanakh is the concept of prophecy. Colloquially, people think of prophets as predictors of the future or as spokesmen for an ideal. However, although prophets may perform these functions, they are not essential to prophecy. As defined by the classics Renaissance commentator Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, part of a prophet's function may include being sent on a mission by God. But this in itself is not the essence of prophecy, nor is it necessary that a prophet be sent on a mission to others. The essence of prophecy is that one be attached to God and he experience his revelation. The Talmud teaches that there were hundreds of thousands of prophets, but Scripture only quotes 55. What did the rest of them do, and why are so few mentioned in Scripture? By definition, prophets are people who had refined their minds and conduct sufficiently to deserve that God's Spirit could rest upon them. It was not necessary for them to bring messages to the people. Their greatness was personal. Indeed, prophets were also known as seers, because they were people whom God had given insight far beyond that of ordinary people. In a sense, we may compare prophets to outstanding scholars, some of whom may write and teach while others may devote themselves exclusively to study and personal growth. The way to compare their relative stature is certainly not by counting their published works. The prophets elevate the nation simply by being role models of holiness, scholarship, and closeness to God. In modern times, civilized society value artists and intellectuals for what they are and for the standards they set for the rest of the community. Governments and philanthropists support them because of the benefits they provide to society. How much more so the people who bring the Spirit of God into their communities? Such were the prophets. Seeing them, their peers would know that God had rested his Spirit upon Israel. And this itself would raise the level of national aspirations. According to the Talmud, when Moshe received the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, God taught him the entire Torah, including the future books of the prophets and the writings. Strange. How could Moses have received the books that would not be composed for hundreds of years? The answer begins with understanding of different perspectives. For example, if people were asked to describe their own hypothetical ideal person, the answers would be many and varied. Each respondent will know what he or she admires, but what one considers the ideal person may be bizarre or even repulsive character to someone else. So too, people whose spiritual antennae are attuned to holiness can hear things that others do not. The generation that stood at Sinai, that saw and heard the revelation, that experienced prophecy, that lived with daily miracles, that could feel the divine presence hovering above them, such people could hear the teachings of Moses and detect in them the holiness of Samuel, the inspiration of David, the wisdom of Solomon, the visions of Isaiah. They were so endued with the lessons and perspectives of the Torah that the future teachings of the great prophets had become part of their nature. In the same way that someone who has mastered a field of knowledge knows the contents of elementary textbooks without ever having seen them. He knows them because he has mastered the subject perfectly. Consider these words and consider what passes today for prophecy. and ask yourself the question, are you listening to a prophet of God, or are you listening to a modern day fortune teller? And while you're at it, take a look in the scripture and find out what we're supposed to do with the fortune tellers. Baruch Hashem.